We're back for another podcast, guys. The Evolv podcast has made a return. And this is sponsored by Coca-Cola.
We wish. But
What do you mean? Coca-Cola wishes we would sponsor them?
you know what? Cheers to that. Yes, they do wish that a small podcast with no subscribers.
Hey. When this episode comes out, I'm sure we're going to have at least one subscriber.
Let's hope.
We're going to have
Two.
at least one, two subscribers.
I reckon we can get 50.
By the time this episode comes out,
Hopefully.
touch wood, fingers crossed, guys. It's all up to you, all right? The people that are watching this right now,
You the
subscribe.
People. You the people.
Subscribe.
Last week.
Actually, I had a question
Yeah.
for our audience.
Yep.
How do you actually, how do you get onto Spotify?
What do you mean? Podcast.
Can you put my thing on Do Not Disturb? Oh, God, sorry about that. That was a bit of an intermission again. Anyways, disregard that question. We could do our own research in there.
So last week we touched on
The book that
we were reading, which was the 7 highly effective habits
of highly effective people.
effective people.
Pretty good.
We dove.
It was a good book.
We dived pretty deep into each of them.
Each of the 7 habits.
We used Ronaldo a lot.
Oh, we
as
did.
An example.
But I feel like that would speak to a majority of people.
Most
He's the
people
most
would
followed
understand.
person on the planet. So
Yeah.
I'm assuming if you're going to pick one person to decide on who to compare it to, it would be him.
No.
Everyone knows sport in some way. But you know what? Our audience would know Ronaldo. The people that watch our podcast would know Ronaldo.
Yeah.
Because the stuff we talk about speaks out to that population of people. Because we, people that listen to us and what we have to say would understand who Ronaldo is.
100%. And I think it was good that we sort of took a step back, and I think there's a lot of education that. I'll get you a coaster.
No, I'll just use my laptop. Oh, guys, sorry about that. I need a coaster, so here we are. Coaster. Make sure you do not put cold beverages on couches or bench tops or tables without a coaster. All right, you heard it here first. You can pick up coasters just like this one from IKEA, Kmart. What? I'm just saying, I know where they can get coasters from.
They know where to get a freaking coaster from.
I don't know. I just thought I'd help them out if they didn't know.
Well, just in case you don't know, listen to what Brendon just said.
Yes, I pick mine up from IKEA. So.
But this week's theme
Is resilience,
yeah.
but primarily in the health and fitness world, because that's what we know. I'm not going to be talking about resilience in Buddhism because I'm not too across it.
Yep.
Even though I am seeing myself not practice, but starting to learn a little bit more about Buddhism and how the faith and the actual faith of Buddhism, Buddhists, and how they actually practice.
It's a very interesting practice.
It is a very interesting practice. I've actually got a book that I'm reading right now about Buddhism. So it's just about Buddha's life. And what interests me the most about Buddhism, as the religion in general, is how every religion, like Christianity, Islam, they kind of always talk about God and a higher being, how that higher being is who you should be answering to and who should guide your decisions and all that stuff like that. Great. But in Buddhism, even though there's Buddha, like how people know Buddha from Buddhism, he actually teaches to not follow him, not to use him as a symbol, not to use him as, like, don't use me as this is how you should live your life. He more uses as I live this life. I learned this. Use these teachings to make your own judgments.
Okay. So it's more of like a teaching rather than a follow.
Yes. And that's what I respect the most about that religion. But, I won't go too in depth into this religion. That's for another podcast because we're actually going to get some guests on. And I already have a guest lined up for you guys that is going to be focused on religion. We don't know what podcast episode is going to come in at. So if you tune in, if you subscribe, you will receive notifications on our religion podcast.
Make sure you subscribe, hit the bell icon, and we'll notify you when one of our next podcasts is up.
And we'll see you soon.
We'll see you soon.
Intermission.
And now a word from our sponsors.
Coca-Cola. No sugar is the best Coca-Cola there actually is.
Can you taste the difference?
I can't. I seriously can't taste the difference with Coke no sugar and the Coke. That's a personal preference. I know people that do. I know people that rave about normal Coke being the best and whatnot. But to me, I don't really see a difference. What about you?
I was never really a big fizzy drinker growing up, but so I never really distinguished the taste being any different or the same.
That's quite a good thing.
Yeah, which was a good thing.
It's the same then.
Yeah, it's just Coke.
So I grew up on normal Coke, loved it, but then as soon as the Coke no sugar came out, started doing that, I was like, wait, don't really taste the difference.
There's actually no difference.
I actually don't. So, I'm sure there will be some flack on this because I'm sure there's people out there that really truly believe that Coke is better. But, I just don't see a difference, personally. But anyways, we talked about that book last episode. Today I wanted to talk about The Daily Stoic, which is another book that both me and you have read.
Yep.
I still read. Funny enough, little story time. When I was in Portugal, I was looking for a bookstore, just a random bookstore in I think it was Lisbon. Yeah, it was Lisbon. So I was in some bookstore in Lisbon. I walked in there with a friend of mine, and we just wanted to suss out like what kind of books are in there.
Mm-hmm.
And it was basically the same books that we read, just in a different language. Some of them were actually in English. There was a section of like English written books, but there was actually most of the books in there were written in Portuguese. Now I can read Portuguese, not fluently enough to read a novel, like a full book, like an in-depth book, but enough to kind of understand the gist of it.
Yeah.
So when I was scrolling through that library, just looking through, I saw this book and it was 365 meditations, but in Portuguese. So,
right.
So I picked it up and I was like, no way. This is going to be so similar to The Daily Stoic, which basically is 365 meditations.
So we'll give you a little rundown of what the book is. So pretty much The Daily Stoic, there's obviously 365 days in a year, so there's 365 pages. Each page is dedicated to a day, so you're pretty much just meant to read one of those pages each day. And they have a teaching towards it. I have a quote in the beginning from like Marcus Aurelius or just like some very stoic people. And then you pretty much, from that read, you take it on into your day. So that's what we were doing pretty much for a whole
year.
A whole year.
Yeah. We basically did it for a whole year.
Yeah.
Because it was me, Rianon, and one of the other friend of ours. All three of us were reading The Daily Stoic, like doing it every single day. If one of us missed one of the other two would have said that teaching throughout the day somewhere, and vice versa. So it was kind of because we had this triangle reading the book. I was going through periods where I forgot to read it at days, but you would, and you'd be like, boys, did you read the book today? And I'd be like, shit, I forgot, Then you'd say it, but then it would be the same way around. You'd forget to read it sometimes. I'd come in and be like, Ray, did you hear this one today?
Yeah.
Today was a good teaching, whatever.
It was good.
But it was good, and I've picked it up recently, and I've still read stuff. I honestly remember it from last year, but it's good to like refresh your brain.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's a book that you can still use, and you know what? Something about books. People find it hard to read books and to continue reading them, because you know you see a thick book, right, and you only get like 5 pages in, you don't get that that feeling like, oh man, I've been reading this all the time and I'm not actually getting through it at all, right? Whereas with the Daily Stoic, you're only supposed to read that 1 page, and that 1 page only takes you like 5 minutes to read, max. And I'm saying 5 minutes because to understand the blurbs and understand what it's actually saying, sometimes you have to digest it. What we used to do would we actually write down a little journal entry of what that meant to us, because everyone took different different thoughts away from each passage. I'd say that thing as a bit of a Bible, in my opinion. Even though we were all religious,
it was good because we all kind of had different views on it, different takes on it. So reading into it, we're all reading it and we were like, I see it as this. And then our other mate would be like, oh, yeah, I understand that, but this is how I see it. And then you'd be like, I get you both, but this is how I see it. Sometimes we'd agree, sometimes we'd disagree, sometimes we'd try and like piece together what we could from it, because some of them were a little bit confusing. But it was like, it was interesting to
come together and see all those different opinions on it all.
It was like a little glimpse into what a book club would be.
Oh yeah,
pretty much.
It actually would be. That's actually what a book club would be like.
Yeah.
So we basically had a book club going for a year. Yeah, we should have continued it on. Daily Stoic round 2. This time it's Rianon's meditations.
Now there was one page in that book that spoke about resilience or bouncing back from hardships, and that was a very, I don't remember when it was. I think it was like November, October, around that time. And this was when we were just coming back from Europe.
Oh, yeah.
And obviously when you go to Europe, you come from a big peak of like going out and having fun and just seeing the world for what it is, and then you come back.
We had a blast.
Yeah, and then you come back and then you're like,
Back to reality.
Back to reality. Back
to work. So and we had just started the business before we went to Europe.
Yeah.
So it was a full 2 months where we had less control over our business. That's the best way to explain it. We had less control because we were out of the country.
Yeah.
So different time zones. You know, things would be done, and we would be either asleep or at a club.
Yeah.
You know, people would be going to
sessions.
Yeah, people would be working while we were not able to work because there was unforeseen circumstances happening when we were in Europe. But we made sure every single day, or not every day, but
most days,
as much as we could, we were getting our laptops out, we were discussing things of how we could make sure it was still running smoothly. And let's just say by the end of it, we did crash.
It was a big
crash,
dip.
But
it was just a big dip.
Yeah, because we didn't have any control. We weren't able to fulfill what we were doing before. And I feel like that was a major lesson for us because it showed us that we were still required inside our business. You know, this is a quote that I always say by a lot of people. If your business solely relies on the owners, then the owners just have a high stress job.
Yeah.
Whereas if your business doesn't rely on the owners and you've got people that are fulfilling the tasks that you would be normally doing, then that's when it becomes a business. So in a way, I still believe that we have high paying jobs. I know, high risk jobs. Yeah, not high paying because I wouldn't say it's high paying.
But I think that was, as I said, so around October, November, it was talking about resilience and bouncing back. I can't remember the quote. I should go get the book, but we'll worry about that another time. But maybe we should start each podcast with a read from the Daily Stoic.
Oh, yes. That would actually be cool. We'll add them in.
Add it in. But around that time was when, obviously, we were dipping from a bit of that peak from coming back from Europe. I think we got back around August-ish, so September, October. So it was like maybe a month or two into being back into reality. And once everyone was sort of back on the ground again, back on square one, me and Brendon and our other business partner sat down and we're like, all right, how are we going to bounce back from this? How are we going to restructure this? How are we going to
Bring it
build?
back to what it was like
Yeah,
beforehand.
how are we going to build this platform from literally the ground up again? And I feel like from what we did bounce back. We bounced back very, very, in a very strong manner.
A lot stronger.
And that was a big lesson. In the time that we felt was so down, we just saw the peak of the next mountain and we were like ready to climb it. And it was like, okay.
And we expect there's going to be a dip once we get to the top of the mountain, which is normal in business. This is not something that not many people know. I'm sure there's a lot of people that do know this, but there's also people that don't. When you're running a business, you can never expect a straight line where it's always good, always happy days. People always say that on Instagram. They say that businesses are just like, oh yeah, you know, they seem all good, they have all this freedom.
Like those drop shipping sites.
Yeah,
like,
they have
become
all
a
this
drop
freedom.
shipper and
they're
you
making
can earn
10 grand a month, whatever it is.
You can earn all this income.
Cool. But what is happening behind the scenes?
Where's the groundwork? What are you
where's the
actually
groundwork?
doing?
How much work is that person doing? Because if you pull what we do, you would be pretty shocked about how much work is actually involved in a business or behind the scenes to make sure that things are working, things are running smoothly. Now, this isn't to say like, you know, if you're on a business, you're going to be constantly stressed out and it's going to be hard. Yes, it is going to be hard. There is positives that come out of it, but there's also negatives. Just like anything in life. If you want an easy road, it's not going to be easy, you know? And that's what people assume like, oh yeah, I'm just going to run a business, I'm going to be financially free, I'm going to be sweet. But they don't realise that to get there, there's going to be a hard, treacherous road to get to. It's not going to be a straight line road that you just follow.
Yeah.
There's not actually a road that you follow. When you run a business, especially if it's a new one,
it's like being
you're creating your own road.
in the middle of the Amazon rainforest and you not know where you are. And you got to find your way back.
Yes, that is actually the best explanation, honestly. And if you want to get to the top of the trees to be able to view the world.
Yeah. I like that analogy. I don't know who used it. I think it was it was actually my old boss. He's like, when you start your next adventure or whenever you start a new adventure, just imagine yourself being picked up, dropped in the middle of nowhere, and you've got to find your way. So an example
and this is not just business, by the way. This is like getting a new job, or going into a new industry. Anywhere that is new and foreign to you, pinned in the middle of the Amazon rainforest, you have to find your own road.
And the way that he described overcoming, like the stress of the world or the stress of not being able to figure out where you're going and what you're doing, was find a tree that you can climb comfortably, go up to it, look at your surroundings and look at where you have to direct yourself. Go back down and then work your way towards it. Okay, you get into a bit of a brick road, we'll call it, or a tree stump that's fallen over. You've got to climb over it. All right, take a couple steps back, climb another tree, look around. How can I get away from this or around this? All right, now I see my new destination that I have to head towards. Climb back down and then head towards that way. So it was like a constant...
And that's actually a really good example because you climbing those trees is basically like you're hitting a roadblock or something that's going to prevent you from going forward until you've done that task, whatever it might be. And that would be an example of, you know, we're in Europe, that would basically be like the tree stump was fallen and we couldn't actually go over that tree stump. So the whole time we were in Europe, we were basically climbing that tree. When we came back, we knew what road we needed to take because we were at the top of the shoreline, and then we came back down and made the new road. Yeah, that's basically what it was.
You can use. I was sitting on my balcony the other day, and I was like, you could make so many analogies just with for everything, just with everything that you know, general knowledge base, like going for a swim, or walking upstairs, or climbing a tree.
Or having, like you always say to me, like you have the rocks in your brain.
You've got rocks inside.
I just wanted to make sure that they all knew as well. The Daily Stoic, which is the book that we were talking about before, there was 4 main themes or 4 main things that you learn in that book. We're going to be explaining to you guys some of the meditations that we took from it. We probably won't do it every single episode, but we pull up some pretty good ones that we believe are good for our audience. Now, for the 4 main things that you learn from it. Accept only what is true. What would you take away from that one?
Don't make assumptions. Don't assume. Because you don't know if it's true or false. Until you know it's true, then it's true. I have been known to assume a lot of things.
I didn't want to say it.
I've been known to assume a lot of things. And it's been something that I have worked on very much. And now I don't assume. I only say the truth, or try to say the truth as much as possible.
Try to. That's a biggest word, because as the moment you say, I've achieved this, is when you've put a halt in your learning, I believe.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, if you believe you're perfect, then you're never going to be working harder to improve yourself.
That's it, 100%.
I'm always going to think that I'm shit, because then that means that every day I've got to work harder to get myself out of being shit.
And if you feel like you're 100% truthful, good, but there's going to come times where you have to sort of sprinkle a little bit of dust over some things.
Exactly.
Because we're all human. We don't all tell the truth. We tend to lie. Like, my past was really bad. When I would do something wrong or something bad, as any teenager would, they'd be like, no, I didn't do that. And then you go into your room and you'd be like, oh no, I lied.
Let's just say people from your past, if they're watching this podcast, will respect the fact that you're being open about the fact that you used to lie. But I can sit here and tell all of you right now that I believe this man has changed.
Thank you.
For the better.
I appreciate
He still lies, right? But
so do you. Fuck you.
But I've seen improvement. All right.
Yeah, I've seen improvement too.
All right.
Number 2.
Number 2 is work for the common good. Now, what the hell does that mean?
Work for the common good. Do what is good. Do what is just. Do what is fair. What is good? There's a lot of definitions.
I feel like what I'm taking away from work for the common good, I feel like it just kind of means you want to make sure that you're always working to benefit others or benefit your environment in a way. Like if you have a family, then your goal should be to maintain that family unit, or make sure you're developing that family unit, helping that family unit in whatever shape or way that you can as a person.
I saw an acronym of what good means.
Oh yeah.
Go on over death.
I don't understand that. I was nodding away, but there's a lie, guys.
So go on over death. So go on with your life and look over what death is, but focus on what is good, which is in front of you, which is the present.
Yeah, well, I 100% agree with that.
Yeah.
Because, like, I want to still be living when I die.
Yeah, yeah.
And what I mean by that is, before I die, I want, like, a statue created for myself. Like a great god, you know, put me in the middle of Greece or something somewhere.
Oh, we'll see.
But back in the day, emperors used to get their people, like the, what would you call them? Empires. Empires would actually get their people to create statues for them.
Yeah.
Right? They wouldn't actually do it themselves. They'd be like, all right, guys, you're building me a statue in my name, whatever. I'm very different, all right? I'm going to build my own statue.
He's got his own empire for himself.
Yes.
I'm going to build my own statue.
And kids, if you're watching this, you have my permission to destroy that thing. But my dad was a dickhead. All right, now, number 3. And this is actually a big one. Match our needs and wants with what is in our control.
Oh, explain that one. That's a deep one. That's
I
very
said-
deep.
And I feel like the Daily Stoic talked about this heaps. What I took away from that one is people have these dreams or big wants, right? But are your wants attached to what you actually need? Because what you need in life is
The bare minimum.
very different to what you want. You know, people want the mansion, people want the fast Lambo, you know. But what do you actually need to have a fulfilling, happy life? Do you need that Lambo? Do you need the mansion? Like, those are cool things, and you know, I guess material wants that a lot of people do.
It's like a materialistic drive.
Yeah, it's a materialistic drive, but is it actually what will make you happy? Once you do achieve that status or that ability to purchase that that good or service, whatever it is, will it make you happy? And you want to make sure that they're closely matched, what your needs and wants are, with what you can control as well. Like, is your career or your career path attached to what your needs and wants are going to be in the future? Are they in line with each other? So let's say, I don't know, my best example of this would be picturing what your future life is going to be. Like, is your future life going to be something involved with traveling the world all the time, having the private jets? If that's sort of what you picture for your future life, then you're going to have to make sure right now that you're working in some way to make sure that will happen in the future.
And it's very important to note as well, like, you can control your inhibition to want those desires. Like, they're
But
all...
being sucked into those desires is not good.
No. And we use a great term, and I always use it in my head when I'm like wanting a new car or wanting to buy a house, or like just thoughts come to my head. I'm like, delayed gratification. Delayed gratification.
It's a good one.
It is good. Delayed gratification is probably the best way to sort of control your desire
or your
drive,
wants.
your wants. They're not necessarily things that you need, and you are aware of that. But when you start chasing a desire, you start chasing an evil, because it's not what you actually need. It's
in that
something
moment,
in that moment.
You can't really control it as well.
Yep.
But once you say things like delayed gratification, that's you taking control of it in some way. It's just like, you know, when you walk into the gym, and this would be like the best example, health fitness related, you know. People walk into the gym wanting that six-pack abs or wanting that big fat booty, you know, if we're going to relate to men and women. Now, you can either go down the long road, delayed gratification road, I like to call it, where you just you just keep on turning up every single day at the gym, working hard, eating a well-balanced diet, day in, day out. You're not going to see results in the first week. You're not going to see results in probably the first month. Maybe in the first 2 months. It's going to take you a while to actually start seeing any physical results or changes into your body. Now, there's also people that want to bypass this. They'll start taking steroids, they'll start taking all these performance enhancers.
You're right in it. Just grab the keys in there.
In an effort.
That's 2 podcasts in a row. He's
It
tried
is
to sneak under the camera.
So they do this with an effort to try and what was I even saying?
I don't know. I just saw his ass crawling under.
You might as well join the podcast.
Keys are there. Grab the keys if you need them. Okay. I don't care. Sorry everyone. Oh god.
All 2 subscribers.
All and a third.
You know what? He's subscribing after that.
Yeah, he has to.
What was I saying? Oh yeah, so yeah, there's people that will take the shortcuts,
Yep.
and you know you'll see these type of people in every single
field.
Every part of your life. You know, it doesn't have to be just in the gym. It can be in your careers, whatever, where they'll, I guess, put other people down to elevate themselves.
Yep.
That's an example in the corporate world, for example. But yeah, do what's in your control. You know, you taking the quick road is not always going to benefit you in the long run, is it? You know, like, yeah, take the steroids. You'll probably get there a little bit faster than, you know, the other person. But are you going to be happy when you get those abs? You know, the person that actually went through the journey is actually enjoying the whole journey, like point A to B, which is going to be a lot longer, but they were noticing like, oh yeah, you know, I increased my weight by a kilo, or, you know, I was able to squat a little bit heavier today. It's actually a slower progression, but they're enjoying the process of learning how their body can move, learning how strong they're getting, learning how to modify their calories for success, all that stuff. Whereas if you're taking performance enhancers, all it's going to do is just, I feel like you're still going to be seeing that road.
Yeah.
It's just going to be enhanced. You can be getting there a bit faster.
Yeah. And the last one is embrace what nature has in store for us.
Yeah.
That talks a lot about control and what we can and can't control.
Yeah.
Nature we cannot control.
Yeah, like if you wake up tomorrow and there's a tsunami coming through your house, like you can't really
Go
say,
stop,
like,
no,
stop, wait, I'm busy today.
I've got to finish an assignment, stop please.
I've got a podcast to run. Imagine me and Ray at the front of the house. Wait, 1 more hour.
Yeah, 1 more hour, please. No, but that's a good one. I think
We definitely should talk about bringing the book in for the next episode.
I think we start with the daily stuff.
We'll read you guys a passage.
Read you guys a passage.
And for my Portuguese viewers out there, I'll read you guys a passage in Portuguese. Can I? No.
If you want to.
I'll translate it into English. I guess on that note, like, when you're talking about health and fitness, there are those people that take the easy roads, right? They're always going to take the easiest road to get from point A to B. And you always see that. You always see those people that are on gear or enhance or whatever. I was actually talking to jiu-jitsu athletes yesterday. And it's actually a sport that's unregulated, as in they don't test.
Oh, you really?
They don't actually test for gear or anything like that.
Jeez.
So at the highest level of jits, like, you know, black belts and whatever, you know, even in their like actual competitors, they're all on gear apparently. According to these people I was talking to yesterday, don't know how accurate it is. I'll need a fact check on that one. But according to them, in America and Australia now is actually increasing now as well. Everyone at highest level is on gear. Not everyone, but like most. If you want to be like upper echelons, you have to kind of be taking something, which is kind of crazy to think of it. But then I really thought about it, right? And I was like, hang on a second. I feel like even if I was super strong, it wouldn't benefit me too much in the sport. And this is just me making an assumption here, but it's an educated assumption, we'll say that. It's because I was rolling with a girl on Monday, so 2 days ago. And she would have been at least 30 kilos lighter than me. And for people that know combat sports, 30 kilos is a major gap. You know, if someone's got 30 kilos, if someone's 30 kilos heavier than you, they're going to be physically stronger, physically larger than you. It's going to be a lot harder for you to do anything to that person, because they can easily just like hit you with a lot more force. If that makes sense, right? In jiu-jitsu, it's more about wrestling and control and, you know, pinning people to the ground but keeping them there and stuff like that. So at the start, I feel like I was going a little bit easy. By the way, mind you, we're at a very similar level in our journey. So I was going pretty easy because I knew I had this physical advantage. But then she was actually super quick. So she was getting around me very fast and putting me into all these different locks and positions. Then I realized like, oh shit, you know, she's not fucking around. So I started actually using a little bit more strength because I kind of needed to in that situation to get out of positions and try and attack her in a way, like try to put her into my own locks. But it was actually a lot harder than I thought, because she was actually putting me into these positions where it was very hard for me to actually get my hands up. So she'd actually have my hands pinned with her legs wrapped around it, and I couldn't actually move. I was full stuck. Then she was able to put me into arm bars or shoulder bars or leg locks and stuff like that. And you know what? She dominated me. Seriously dominated me. And I was humbled, way humbled. But it made me realise, after talking to the boys yesterday about everyone being enhanced, even if there was someone that was enhanced in some way, I feel like it will still come down to the skill.
Yeah, it's more so a skill rather than a enhancement.
Yeah, a strength thing. It's more about like knowing what to do and when. So it's
100%.
like strategy and all that stuff, which you can't really gain from, you know, pinning yourself, in my opinion. So maybe that's why the sport it allows for enhanced athletes. But you know, for me, I truly believe for you to go anywhere in life, you should be showing resilience. You know, there is sports that rely on you being enhanced, like IFBB Pro bodybuilding. You need to be enhanced to actually win anything in that comp, because you cannot get to the size of, you know, C-Bum naturally, you know, or Arnie or Ronnie Coleman.
To be fair, I've noticed one thing with C-Bum compared to all the other bodybuilders. He's the only that I've seen focus on mobility work.
Yeah, but that's after he's finished competing.
Yeah, I know, which is the most important.
Well, yeah, 100%.
Because
He's
like
actually
Ronnie
doing
Coleman,
mobility training.
like Ronnie
yeah.
Coleman, is
he's
paralysed
tough.
from his legs down pretty much.
Which is sad.
And that's what so many years of
Constant
just constant compression on your spine and not actually focusing on mobility does.
Or moving your body around
Yeah.
and seeing what your joints can actually do. Because I saw a video of him doing a T-spine rotation where like he was against the wall and he was able to move his whole back around, and I was like, wow, that's actually impressive.
For someone with that much muscle
so
mass.
big,
Yeah.
and like you would assume he would be very stiff and rigid. He
Yeah.
wouldn't be moving his body well. But I think he lost quite a bit of weight and then started doing mobility training,
Yeah.
which would have made it a bit easier. Right?
Did he retire? I think he retired.
Let's fact check that one. Is C-Bum retired?
I've heard
Alright,
that somewhere.
well, there
so
we go.
now he's like in his retirement. He's creating
Retirement
businesses.
age.
Well, he's made a full name for himself. Now he's creating businesses. He's got his whole supplement range. He's
Good on
done
him.
well. He's created a name. He's created a business out of it, and now he's just retiring and focusing on those things. And like you can
Good on
go,
him.
you can go for 7, 8, 9, 10, like if you really wanted to. But what do you do after 5? 5's like a good number. How many did you win? You just stop there.
He doesn't have to do the 10 or
Yeah.
the
6.
or 11. You know, he can just be like, yeah, fuck. Because it's just an easy 5. Now I'm retired. I'm doing this. You know.
But I think he went into it after every year getting better and better and better. Came around to the 5th year and he's gone, if I continue doing this, my body's going to pay for it. So he wants to
now he's
live a
taking
long,
step
fulfilling
back
life.
and gone down the mobility training road.
Injury prevention.
Maybe seeing stuff like Ronnie Coleman being so, you know,
Yeah.
injured and stuff
The stump
is going to
shit.
be something that actually prevents bodybuilders from going to that extreme. Because Ronnie Coleman, amazing athlete, but went a bit too far. You know, I saw
Yeah.
some of the videos he did, like lightweight baby. You know, he's
Yeah.
definitely inspiring for a lot of people. I feel like more for the
crazy,
powerlifters, right? But you know, I feel like it's just too much,
He lifted,
in my opinion. You know,
he squatted he leg pressed nearly like a ton, or I think more than a ton. Like
yeah, he's a full-blown athlete.
It's
Like,
crazy.
good on him, like for the stuff he achieved. But you know, there was obviously not much longevity training involved in what he was doing.
Yeah.
But you, to be fair, I don't really know what he was doing in his training. To be fair, I only saw the big lifts and what most people would have seen, like, you know, his deadlifts, squats, whatever. Because they're the biggest videos, the biggest lifts that you want to see on Instagram, whatever. You don't know if he was actually doing mobility training. He could have been. You know, maybe his injuries were unfortunate. But from what I saw and from what I kind of know about his training, there wasn't too much of the mobility side of things in there.
Yeah.
But, I guess that's a food for thought, If you are going to bodybuilding, maybe include some mobility training in your routines. We've actually got mobility training gurus at the moment Greek of, so hit us up.
Slight plug.
Slight plug.
But overcoming stuff like that. So like the mental resilience to actually stop when you know it's right. Or the thing is, I think the reason that he stopped...
Big ego thing.
It's an ego thing as well. The reason I think he stopped is because he was having a kid as well. Like it all worked out perfectly. Like it was his last hurrah, his last, like the big 5, and then bang.
He's got a family
kid.
and everything, so...
So like, that's a challenge in itself, like starting a family.
Amazon rainforest. If you're focusing on winning a bodybuilding competition while you're bringing new life into the world, they're two very big things that are happening. You've kind of got to make sure that you're 100% focused on something.
Yeah.
I do know a lot of people that do focus a lot on careers or whatever when they do have families or they do have something else going on in their life. You can. Just becomes really hard, choose your hard, I like to say. And obviously he decided that maybe he wants to go down a different road than bodybuilding, each their own. But there are athletes in the world where, like I saw Hazard, Eden Hazard, Belgium, he retired at 32, right? But then you got players like Ronaldo that are continuing on at 38. I guess you can see the difference there. Like 32 is pretty young, 38 is pretty old. 38, people are saying 38 is so old for players to be playing. 32 is way too young for people to retire. So I guess where's the middle ground? Like, what's a sweet spot? Because that's only a 5-year gap, 6-year gap.
6-year gap. Yeah, it's a bit of a debatable one. I think people, when they're just either they've hit that mental block that they're not going to get any better or they're not going to improve, they just stop and they just go, it's just easier to retire. Like Messi retired, came out of retirement, won a World Cup, and now he's still playing.
Yeah, it's funny how that works.
Like you actually never know
what's going to happen.
There's a lot of... I haven't really watched much of it, but there's a lot of crap on the news recently. And it's made me realise that I don't like watching the news.
I feel like it's just really depressing. I feel like media decides to paint a picture of what is happening in the world to guide you into believing that that's what's happening. But I feel like there's always two sides to a story, and you're only seeing one side when you're looking at any sort of media resource, unfortunately. But now we've got the social media world, where you're going to be able to see other people's opinions on what's happening as well. But then you also got to remember that those are opinions as well. But I also like to say to a lot of people, look at media like Channel 7 or Channel 9 News, all that stuff, as also opinions. That's what I like to say. Look at them as opinions. They were just one big guy that decided, this is what we're going to believe, this is what we're going to push out into the world. That's it. This is what they're viewing, So it was someone's opinion at the end of the day. So make sure you always look at the news as that was this guy's opinion. Do I like it? Do I not like it?
Is it for me? Is it not for me?
There we go. That's it. And maybe do your research before making an assumption as, that's what's happening there? Okay, I'm going to tell everyone I know that this is happening and they should do this.
Yeah.
It's like, are you a sheep? Maybe do the research and find out for yourself if that's actually true or not. And be smart with your research. Don't just look up on Google, is this happening? Then press the same link that you found that resource from anyway.
Copy and paste it, send it to everyone.
Like you heard it on Channel 7 News and then you find a Channel 7 News article and you read the same thing, you're like, see,
told you. You picked up an injury on Saturday. Another one to add to the tally.
Oh, yeah. So if you follow my Instagram, you know that I'm an injury guy. I'm always getting injured. I'm always trying to teach people how to prevent injuries. but I'm still getting injured. So, yeah, I picked up an injury on the weekend, so not a bad one. Playing football, someone tackled me from behind. I realise now why tackling from behind is not safe and it's not good for people to do. But I got tackled from behind, and I feel like the dangerous part in it is you don't expect it. I didn't know that I was getting tackled, right? And because I didn't know, I wasn't able to prepare for the landing.
Yeah.
So when I got tackled, I was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
You know, within a second I was on the floor. But when I landed on the floor, I just put my hand out. And, you know, just think of, you
Took
know,
the brunt of it.
this big frame here, you know, landing on my wrist. Not good. So now I've got like pretty limited range of motion in my wrist. Like that kind of hurts to go into those end ranges.
Just to
compare.
reference and compare, I could do that.
That's me.
And I could do that.
Yeah. I feel like it's getting better. I feel like it was less yesterday. Whereas, you know, this is my old range before.
Far out is a big difference.
Yeah, I know. Well, yeah, anyways, yeah, so I picked up that injury on the weekend. Going to be seeing my physio this week to kind of find out what's happening. And it's actually stopped me from, not really stopped me from training because I've gone into jiu-jitsu still. I've just made sure it's strapped so then all that strapping does, and this is a good teaching, I guess, I only strap my wrist when I'm doing a sport that might require wrist movement, right? So when it's strapped up, all it's kind of doing is making sure that my wrist stays straight so it doesn't really move around too much, if that makes sense, right? Whereas if it's loose, it's going to be able to move around too much, right? All I'm doing is making sure that it's a lot more stuck, so it's less movement inside that wrist. So when I'm in jits or jiu-jitsu, if I'm going for locks, my hand's going to be locking like this rather than like this. Yeah, that's what I'm doing. When I'm going to my gym training, I try doing a push day, but push day movements are really focused on, you know, moving the wrist a lot because the load goes into your hand, and when the load's pushing down, it's pulling you into those positions. So I couldn't do that, so it prevented me from doing push day, pull day as well. Like all my pulling type movements was fine, but because I wasn't strapping it, it felt really weird and awkward when I was doing a pull up, and you know it was putting me into this weird position here. It was in too much pain. But I did a leg day today, thinking I would be fine, but I needed to get out of the gym. Spent another 10 minutes going all the way to my car, getting the tape to make sure it's taped up, coming back up into the gym. But I ended up doing my full leg day, which was great. Obviously, I'm not really using my arms on leg day. But because I had it strapped up, it wasn't really moving. So when I had it on barbell back squat, I was pretty strict on there, which was good. But yeah, I guess with any injuries that I've had, I always try to find a workaround. You know, whether that be through taping, making sure that I can still do some other type of sport or some other type of movement, that I can still move my body or get a similar type of workout in, just using different joints.
What would you recommend to someone that obviously goes through an injury like that? Where would you direct them? Would you direct them to a chiropractor, physio?
Definitely physio.
Yep.
I've always used physios personally. They are like the bee's knees in the rehab world. You know, they're able to diagnose straight off the bat, whereas chiros and other rehab specialists are not able to diagnose. So if you want a diagnosis as to what's happening, you have to go to a physio anyway. But at the end of the day, if you find someone that's a really good chiro, they would be able to help you with the rehab anyway if you're not too held on knowing what the injury was. I like knowing what my injury is. So, you know, I'm going to go in and he's like, this is what your injury is. Then I'll be like, oh, sweet, cool.
I know what to do.
Once I know that, I'll be able to do my own research to find out kind of what the injury path is going to look like. I'm still going to go to them, but you know, I want to find out myself, what is the journey going to look like? How long is a usual rehab protocol for this injury? But yeah, instead of going into full detail about all this stuff. What I am going to say is always find the workarounds. I know a lot of people that they get an injury, and there are some injuries that might fully put you out, where you can't move, you can't really do anything. I like to make sure that there is always a way that I can still do something, even if it's small, because I hate being bedridden, or I hate being unable to do normal things, right? Being unable to train or do stuff actually pisses me off, if I'm going to be honest. So I always like to make sure that I'm coming up with strategies to kind of go over that in some way. What about you? You've had injuries. What have you kind of done to kind of bounce back in a way?
I've been a bit of a lazy boy when it comes to injuries, but recently, since you becoming a part of my life now,
Mobility guru.
Brendon has really taught me about the importance of mobility and how it can actually improve injuries and joints and ligaments and all that stuff. So I had a rotator cuff injury for about 2-3 months, and I did nothing about it. I just thought it'd sort of walk itself off, and then that didn't happen. So Brendon gave me about 3 or 4 exercises, and I just kind of focused on those in the forefront of like a push day or a pull day. Legs, not so much. I just kind of warmed up the shoulders. I wasn't using them too much, but it did help. It just strengthened joints and ligaments and stuff that I never would have touched or worked on. But in regards to injuries, I haven't had too many injuries, which has been good.
Yeah, touch wood, guys.
Which has been good. I think the worst injury I've had is maybe like a little bit of a pulled hamstring, but you know, you can only do so much with like a pulled hamstring. But I haven't had many joint or joint injuries. So I've been pretty fluid with everything, and if it has sort of risen to a point where I can't take it anymore, I'll go to a physio. He'll give me like sort of similar work. I think the only injury that I've had that's been bad has been my back, and that was from, what did I do there? I got kneed in the back playing soccer, and it was just a bad cork.
What a bad sport, eh? So many injuries.
Far out. But that comes to like the recovery side of things as well, like going to things like massages. The physios pretty much do the whole massage process. You got your saunas, you got your steam rooms, you've got your salt baths. I went to a salt bath yesterday.
Oh, how was it? Did you do float therapy as well?
Yeah, there was the flow therapy.
You did it?
Yeah, so it's just a pool full of salt, and literally I was falling asleep because there's no weight on your body whatsoever. So you have this little floaty, and you're just floating there, and you're in there for an hour. So you're literally just falling asleep, and I fell asleep like 3 or 4 times, like just nodded myself out of it. But it was actually really relaxing to a point where you don't think about anything. You just hear the music playing, and there's no actual weight on your joints or your muscles or any sort of part of your body.
That sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, so it was good. It was good just to sort of detox and relax a bit. The sauna's a sauna. You've been in one before.
Yeah.
Those things just make you sweat, like galore sweat. Oh my God.
But they're really good as well.
Yeah, I haven't sweat like that in a hot minute. So I was just like sitting there like, oh my God. Had the towel over my head. I poured water on the towel, put it over my head. I was like, oh, okay, that's good. 5 minutes later, oh no, I've got to take it off. More cold water.
You're a big fan of like the massage guns as well, and like the tools.
Yeah, we've got a massage gun. Well, we've explained before how dynamic recover was meant to be like a.
It started off as a shop.
As a shop in the recovery realm of things.
Don't worry, guys, we're going to bring it back.
We'll bring it back soon.
We'll bring it back. We don't have the time at the moment, but we will bring it back. I've always liked the foam rollers, like the spikier ones.
Yeah, they're good.
But there's also other types of foam rollers as well. Like you've got the foot roller.
Yeah.
I actually got one of my clients out recently.
Yeah.
Because she's actually got really tight ankles and tight feet. Always gets calf pain.
Yeah.
So I thought, you know what, get a foot roller.
Yeah.
Helped her heaps. You got the peanut balls. They had all this
The
stuff
rolling
on the Great
pins.
Cove site, just saying.
What do we have? We have the rolling pins, the balls, the peanut balls, massage
foam
guns,
rollers,
foam
massage
rollers.
guns, yeah.
You name it, we had it. We had the bands.
Dynamic Recov. It was a recovery store.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how we came up with dynamic recov.
Yeah, and now most of our trainers actually teach mobility.
Yeah.
Because it's the most, like if you're primarily working outdoors or in people's homes, you want to make sure that they're doing a lot of body weight type training.
Yeah.
And with body weight type training, you're trying to increase people's range of motion by getting into deeper positions like deeper squats or deeper push-ups, because that's what you're focusing primarily on. You don't have the load that you would have in the gym where you can just focus on increasing load every week. Your focus point is actually just increasing their flexibility, but also increasing their strength.
100%.
Which is mobility.
Which is mobility. I think like since getting back into training again, I've realized that my goals have shifted in the sense that I don't need to focus on, like when we were younger, it was like, oh, can you do 100 bench press? Can you? Whereas now it's like...
Can you bench?
Whereas now it's like, all right, what's your range of motion like? Like, can you actually get all the way down into like a full range squat? Or can you bring your chest all the way to the ground for a push-up?
Yes, can you
Like,
touch your toes?
Can you touch your toes? Like, range of motion is definitely like... the shift in goals is something to be aware of as well. Like when you're growing up sort of in a realm of testosterone and boys and going, oh, we're going to go gym.
Squat, bench, deadlift.
Yeah, legit. You forget to do the actual bare minimum, which is stuff like mobility. So your goals shift in the sense that you go, okay, well, my knees hurt when I squat, my ankle can't move, my hips are out of whack, my back hurts, my shoulders are out of whack, my shoulder blades, one's higher than the other according to my physio. What am I going to do? So like, for instance, I had that's actually an injury that I had. I had a weak lat. So my left lat is weaker than my right. So when I row, I can't actually feel my lat working. Whereas on my right, I can feel my lat working.
Probably because you were doing lots of double joints and stuff, and
yeah.
you're focusing more on that one side. Because
Yeah.
one side was stronger, then the other side was just not doing as much.
Yeah. Whereas now I'm doing a lot more unilateral stuff, which is
So
the single sides.
Yeah.
But now, yeah, as I was saying, like changing or shifting your goals is so important because...
And I feel like people always change their goals in their health and fitness journey.
Yeah.
Like you might hit one, and then what do? You just stop, or do you create a new goal after that? You know, everyone's going to constantly change, and it's also a big thing that people change their paths in health and fitness as well. Like you can go from being primarily just focus on gym. I met someone the other day who started jiu-jitsu at the same time as me, and she was primarily a gym girl, and now she's actually she actually started jiu-jitsu because she wanted to start something new. She started getting bored of the same thing all the time, just training at the gym. She's still training at the gym now, just less, and focus on introducing a new sport. And for all the people in our football team, I would say the same thing about them.
Yeah.
You know, they'll focus primarily on gym or something else. Now they're introducing football into their life because they want to add that new element to their life or new sort of like sporting endeavour. And that's comes with, you know, changing goals, which is going to happen. And a big thing that's happened recently has been introduction of run clubs or the new dating app, people like to say.
Yeah, that's been like a big shift in people's goals as well. Like, what is it that you think that makes people go, okay, I need to change something? Is it a plateau? Is it a brick wall? Is it they're not happy with the way that they're looking? Like, there's obviously...
I feel like it'd be different for everyone.
It'd be very different for everyone. It's a mixture of things.
That could be a few
examples.
A few examples of what some people believe. You know, I just told you about that girl who just was looking to start something new. For me personally, I just went to a trial, just a free trial thing, and I fell in love with the sport just from the first 3 weeks, and I'm still continuing on. So for me, it was just joining that community, and I feel like community is a big thing. You know, like gym community is good, But then when you join a sport, it's a different type of environment.
Yeah.
Now, when you join a sporting team, you guys are all centered on the same goal. You know, this is team sports. You're all centered on the same goal. So you're going to always work together, find ways that you can work as a good unit to beat other teams.
Yeah, work around hardships.
Exactly. In a run club, very similar thing. You guys are all individual athletes, obviously, but you're doing it together. You're doing it with someone.
Yeah.
So you're going to be like, oh, what was your run time today? You're going to try to boost each other up and all that stuff, and that's all cool. I guess what a lot of people like to do is join communities, because at the end of the day, people love people. As much as you don't think you do, everyone loves to be surrounded by other people in some way.
That's the takeaway from today. People love people.
Yes, people love people. And that's us.
That's us.
Great Cov. From the Evolv podcast.
The Evolv podcast, not Dynamic Great Cov. But
we're starting a run club soon, by the way, guys.
there you go. Bit of a plug.
Bit of a plug. So
We'll introduce next episode. We'll introduce the Daily Stoic. We'll bring a read.
Yeah, we'll
to
bring
you
a read.
guys.
Yeah.
See
And what do you guys think of my mullet?
It's a full-on mullet going. I don't have a mullet. I used to. It was a dirty one as well.
You know, I've lived in this country. Oh my God. I was born and raised in Sydney, and this is the first time I've had a full mullet. So, you know, cool. See you later, guys.
Out from the mullet and the non-mullet guy. Later.